Now, today I am going to share a recipe for a refreshing lime dressing. And each of the ingredients are very specific. I'm actually going to start my timer because I don't want to go over time. And so I want to make sure I'm honoring that time. So I have several ingredients that I'm going to speak about. And I have on the Crack the Wellness Code website, in the nutrition and food area, there is a live feed for some of the articles. And one of the articles from last month was called Meal Planning Wisdom. And that was an article that I wrote. And it actually has this recipe right on there. So it is accessible right through the website for Cracking the Wellness Code. Now, I told you that each of these ingredients are very specific for health. So the first ingredient that I'm going to discuss, and it's in a specific order, is garlic. Garlic is an amazing anti-cancer fighter. So what we're going to do though is we can use a garlic press, or you can use a knife to mince, or you can smash as you wish, but I'm going to use this garlic press. And the most important situation here is I'm starting with the garlic because in order for us to have the maximum benefit from the anti-cancer activity of the garlic, it needs to be crushed and then it needs to sit before you apply either heat, which is not going to happen in this recipe because this is a dressing, or acid. And because we're going to use a vinegar and we're going to use citric acid by way of limes, we want that enzyme to be able to form when we crush the membrane of the cell, the plant wall. We want that to sit for a few minutes before adding it to the rest of the dressing. So if you're making some other kind of recipe, I grew up as a little Italian girl in the kitchen with my grandmother, and she always taught me how to make sauces. And our Italian sauce, she would start with the onions in the pan, and then she'd press the garlic right into the pan, not letting it rest. She didn't realize that that chemical reaction is best done ahead of time. So whenever I use garlic, I crush it or mince it or press it first and let it sit while I'm working with the other ingredients. All right? So that's just a little pro tip. Now, this recipe, like I said, has several really important ingredients. So one of the ingredients that we're going to start with is mango. Now, mango is a phenomenal source of carotenoids. Those are the vitamin A, provitamin form of vitamin A. Provitamin meaning it needs to be activated in our body. But what that does is it allows our own body to decide how much vitamin A we need. So you never have to worry about a toxicity if you're consuming a carotenoid form of vitamin A, which actually means the color, the pigments in food. So the brightest of the fruits and vegetables are going to be full of carotenoids. So mango, great example. Now mangoes are best nutrition-wise when they're ripe. But when they're ripe, they're also very hard to transport. So many people end up buying mangoes at the supermarket that are hard. And that's because to transport them, they would get crushed, right? It wouldn't work. So buying frozen mango is fantastic because they pick it ripe and then they'll process and freeze it, which just means peel and freeze, within hours. So you're getting a lot of nutrition. So we're gonna put in the mango that I've thawed, and then you also have it accessible, and it couldn't be easier. So we have the mango. Then we're gonna use apple cider vinegar. And apple cider vinegar is excellent for your body. There's actually a good recommendation is 2 teaspoons of vinegar with every meal. Not just drink it straight, but incorporate it. So into a dressing like this, perfect. And that can actually help with weight loss. All right, so we're putting in the apple cider vinegar. Could you use a different vinegar? Absolutely. You could use rice vinegar. You could use white vinegar. You could use champagne vinegar. You could use a white balsamic, although it's going to change the flavor a little bit. But definitely, if you used a standard balsamic, it would probably be too dark. But again, if you don't, doesn't really matter color-wise, not a problem. Then we have ginger. Ginger is anti-inflammatory, even anti-migraine. Okay, that's very important to remember. But ginger gets a little difficult to handle sometimes because it can get stringy. So the best way that I found is keep it in the freezer, because it also will mold in the fridge. So if you keep your ginger in the freezer and use a microplane, okay, this is a microplane, then all you have to do is microplane, and you can see on the bottom it's full of the ginger, and it makes it very easy. And this is actually kind of thawed out a little bit while we were waiting, but when you do this frozen, it works like a charm, which it's actually working fantastic. And if you've never used one of these microplanes, I had a student who was so afraid to use it because she thought she was going to cut herself. But you can't cut yourself on the bottom. There's no way to cut yourself. And when you're on the top, you don't cut yourself if you're going down, only up. Okay, so it's a wonderful tool. So we like a lot of ginger because it's very anti-inflammatory and it provides a lot of flavor. Now, could you use powdered ginger? Absolutely. And it's nice to use both powdered and fresh. So we're gonna, actually, I'm gonna put a little extra piece in there because it's going in the Vitamix, so it's not gonna be a problem. It'll blend it right up. And then we have turmeric. So turmeric root, again, one of the most anti-inflammatory compounds on the planet. You can get turmeric powder, which is excellent. We can use both if we'd like, but the turmeric root is usually right next to the ginger at the grocery store. And again, keep it in the freezer and we can microplane it. And then we get this beautiful, gorgeous turmeric. Okay, every day, at least a quarter of a teaspoon, which I know is not hard, especially with a lot of curries, with the powdered turmeric. Okay, now we have, let's see, white beans. This may be surprising to you, but white beans can give this wonderful dressing some body and fiber and protein. Now, I want to add lime. However, instead of reaching for my knife, what I need to reach is for this microplane again, because the zest of the lime, not only does it give it a punch of flavor, but it also protects our own skin against skin cancer. Just like these little limes need to be protected against the sun when they're all day in the sun. So we want to make sure we're getting some of this beautiful zest. And again, this couldn't be easier, right? So this makes a wonderful pop of flavor. And we're going to need some juice. Whenever you work with limes, you roll them, right, before you cut them. Now, as you could imagine, if I had forgotten to zest, it would be much more difficult to zest little pieces of lime. That's why I always recommend on my recipes, you want to zest first. Now, the best way for me is to use one of these reamers. So I need a third of a cup. So I have a little third of a cup measure here. So I'm gonna get lots of juice. Now, when I do dressings, I'm not as particular as far as exactly how much of a certain ingredient, because I know that I can just adjust the flavor. So if I love vinegar, so I will do a little extra vinegar. Or if I have one extra lime, I'll throw it in there. If I want to add some orange, then I may add that. If I have some lemon, right now I have some Meyer lemons. So you can be very flexible. In my cookbook, The Foodie Bar Way, that I had at the Cracking the Wellness Code event and that you can get online, I teach you how to make a dressing from whatever ingredients you have, and they always come out fantastic. So we're putting lime in there, and then let me continue on with ingredients. Parsley from my garden. So I just washed it. I have a front yard garden. One day you may go out there and check it out. And then I have beautiful cilantro from the garden as well. So we always want to sneak the greens in there. Then we have chia seeds. Chia seeds will provide, and the greens, let me go back to the greens. The greens are not only huge anti-cancer, but they will also help you pull heavy metals out of your system, okay? They're very phenomenal for that. Now, these chia seeds, omega-3, fiber, protein, and thickness, body to the dressing without flavor, okay? So they're not gonna change the flavor. Then we have some water, and we wanna not forget about the garlic. So the garlic has sat long enough, okay? So it's been 11 minutes on my watch. I'm gonna add a little bit more lime because I love lime, and I'm gonna be the one eating this. Now, before we blend this, there's 2 ingredients that I want to discuss that we haven't talked about yet. The first one is black pepper. Whenever you use turmeric, you always want to make sure you include black pepper, because in our body, our liver will naturally try to break down the turmeric, and if we have some black pepper, it'll keep the amount of turmeric in our blood higher. And in some research, it showed as high as 2,000% more. Okay, so very important. And I have a chai spice blend that's on my website and in my book that also uses both. And a lot of the curry blends include both turmeric and pepper, as you know. And then the last ingredient is a date, a medjool date. So what we're gonna do though is we're gonna wait to taste it first, because sometimes the mango is sweet enough, but then other times you may want to add a little sweetness, and the very, very best sweetener on the planet, dates, full of fiber. Now, when you have the medjool dates, very important when you take it home, need to pull out the pits. So, because if you forget one of those pits, there goes your dressing, right? And could mess up your blender if you don't have a really strong blender. So when I bring dates home, I always take the pits out and then put them in a Ziploc bag and then stick them in the bottom drawer of my refrigerator. Then I have them ready whenever I need them. Otherwise, they can mold on the counter. And some of them, when you open them up, there's a little black mold. So I catch all those and throw those away, okay, when I look at them every time. So I'm gonna wait on that. I have a feeling I'll probably add it, but okay, so now we've got all the ingredients in: mango, apple cider vinegar, zest of lime, juice of lime, ginger, turmeric, black pepper, garlic, cilantro, parsley, chia seeds, water, white beans. Yes. Okay, so now it's gonna be loud. Okay, that is it. That is how difficult it is to make your own dressing. And you can see in here, maybe, maybe not. But what I do now, well, I should taste it, shouldn't I? To see if it needs, I have a long spoon. Do you know what it needs? It needs 2 things. It does need the date, and it also needs mustard. Mustard is critical for including, I'm going to squirt it in there, including in any kind of cooked green. So using a little bit of powdered mustard or prepared mustard will help bring the enzyme action back from the original uncooked raw vegetable, which is fantastic. So I'm going to blend this up. And the last thing to show you is how you can keep them. So you can put them back in, I thawed the mangoes in here, so you can put them back in a canning jar, or if you want them in squeeze bottles, you can keep your dressing in squeeze bottles. That's exactly 15 minutes. We did it.
Perfect.
Thank you.